grant funding, and we're waiting literally to hear any day about a major grant. We've collaborated with the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement on this program, and the interest has been very, very high. So we're hoping to begin teaching the various instruments involved in a mariachi orchestra to young people, whether or not they have any music experience. So this will be huge, and we're going to keep plugging until we get it going, regardless of the outcome of the current grant that we're waiting to hear on. Other programs, of course, we have an ongoing series of concerts, bluegrass, jazz. This is our non-children's theater company, Convergence Theater Company, that we produce. This started a year and a half ago. Matt Demerit, who's the theater instructor at Marysville Charter Academy, said, hey, I want to start a new theater group that focuses. It's not that they're not doing musicals, because we're actually doing Godspell this summer, but they wanted to do some other types of theater, kind of thought-provoking stuff. So we just finished Motherhood Out Loud. Before that was a production of a show called Roe that really looked behind the scenes on what went into the original Roe v. Wade decision. So, but then Godspell will be out this summer. That's currently in rehearsal. Yuba-Sutter Big Band. It's a lot of local professional musicians, music educators that came together. We've got a 20-piece big band jazz orchestra. Pretty cool if you like that kind of music. Various veterans art programs we mentioned, ceramics, bronze casting, portraits of veterans. Supervisor Vasquez was part of that project. You know about a lot of the public art we've done, a major contract with the city of Live Oak. Those top two are from that collection. Down at the bottom is the Japanese-American mural we did over on the wall adjacent to the Buddhist church in Marysville. The utility boxes are certainly well known. We just did the new one over at 5th and H Street. That was funded by local resident Betty Huckins, who patiently waited for the right box and the right location and the right design. So we're very pleased. If you have, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of it in here. I should include it. Various traveling art exhibitions, working with indigenous artists, Raj Kalan, a Sikh artist who grew up here and has gone on to do great things internationally. Various cultural programs we've been involved with. Of course, one of our great pride and joys over a very sad issue, of course, is the Arboga Assembly Center Memorial Park. If you're not familiar with this location, it's where 2,500 Japanese Americans were held while the more permanent concentration camps were being built. That's what they call them. So I'm going to defer to the Japanese Americans that lost a lot during that experience. So this is an interactive, self-guided tour park right on Broadway out in South Yuba County. QR codes on each of the murals allow visitors to learn about that experience and learn what happened there. It was a repurposed farm workers camp from the 30s. Actually, it was across the street. But the site where we located the park is owned by Marysville Joint Unified, and they gave us a long-term MOU. So, film festivals, we just finished our second 48-hour flash film festival. It's amazing to see what people come up with. The short film festivals, 12-minute films, where they have more time to create their short film. We are still part of the Yuba-Sutter Film Commission and help guide the process what's going on there to bring outside production companies in. These are just samples of some of the upcoming events. We send out postcards and emails every month about what's coming up. We're bringing back Harvest the Arts out at John Hyer's farm this fall, so watch for that. Pretty popular event. We raised $200,000 for the Cotton Rosser Bronze Statue Project, so we're anxious to see that come to life here, hopefully in time for rodeo in September. Arts and corrections programs, arts in the continuation schools, working with YCOE. Arts exposure is a grant we've gotten a couple of times. That literally pays for field trips for students to go to, like the Crocker. Last year we did a trip to the Crocker with Marysville High School. Many of the kids had never been to Sacramento, let alone to Crocker Art Museum. So we just had a group from Yuba City High go to San Francisco, to the DeYoung, and had a great experience there. So. Speaking of grants, this is kind of the direction, not that we're going to abandon what else we do, but an additional service we're providing to the community are re-granting grants. We have to apply for these. When successful, we then have access to funds to give away to local artists and arts organizations. So the NEA grant on the left is over and done. These are the different artists and organizations that we were able to fund. $10,000 to the Oratorio Society is a big deal, as it was for the Master Chorale. They can bring in guest artists and do a lot more with it. On the right, I've been on the committee for the Upstate Creative Corps, 19 counties. We had over 300 applications, and we've got 7, I think, finalists in Yuba-Sutter. It'll be an allotment of something like $300,000. So we're waiting literally any day to find out who was. I don't get to finally say who gets it, but the committee will make those decisions, and we'll announce who the beneficiaries are. As always, we're open to support via membership or donations, and always invite the community to help us in that regard. And just one final slide on economic development. Whether it's grants we're giving away to others, excuse me, I've had a sore throat, I'm sucking on a lozenge. But our annual stipend this year, we won't know till the end of the year, from the California Arts Council, should be about $150,000. These are some of the other grants that we have applied for or have received, like our Outdoor Equity Grant Program. That's a new one, $200,000. It pays to take anybody free of charge on guided hikes with trained naturalists and artists and we include the art supplies. So if they want to stop and do some journaling or sketch a bird or a rock or the river or whatever, that's the California State Parks Outdoor Equity Grant Program. So there's an art component. So again, more money coming into the community, paying for, paying artists, paying other individuals. We're going to do one around Ellis Lake in July. We're excited about it. So just some of the value add from your friends at the Yuba-Sutter Arts Councils. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much, David.
Yes, sir.
Any question from the board? Comments?
Just a quick comment. So thank you for the presentation. It's amazing all the different things you guys do. So it's great to hear about it. And I think this is probably the most colorful, fancy PowerPoint I've ever seen. So
this incredible,
it's awesome.
We have this incredible graphic designer named Abby Cecile.
Okay.
She's on fire. Thank you.
David certainly has changed since you've taken the helm.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for your effort.
How do you accomplish all that with a staff of only 50?
Yeah, right. Hey, it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Thanks
Thank
so
you
much.
very much, Dave. All right. Receive quarterly update from the Public Safety Departments. Okay. Sheriff.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Can you hear me?
Just barely.
Better?
There you go.
Mr. Chairman. I will say also, the chairman of the board backed me on a call yesterday, and that was appreciated.
That was so much fun.
So I have some visual aids for you. I don't have a PowerPoint. David always does an excellent job, so it's a tough one to follow. So I do have one caveat. This is our 2022 end of year report. But it's not complete. I wanted to use it as a guideline. You can follow along, and then I have some up-to-date stats as well. So you will be seeing that prepared report probably in the month of July, and it may look a little bit different with some numbers. So as you know, the public safety partners, Chief Arnold, Mr. Curry, our DA, we presented last quarter, and Mr. Arnold took the bulk of the presentation and provided information to you. So now it's my turn.
That's your turn. Okay.
So as you can see, the annual report, it's, like I said, it's not complete. I won't read the whole thing. There's a message in there, our vision statement. You can read that at your leisure. And I'll just get into the meat and potatoes of what we do at the Sheriff's Department and what the men and women have been able to accomplish over the past year and into this quarter. The operations division, as you know, is comprised of several different units, and they just do amazing things. We have the investigations unit, which is the first up. I put my glasses on. And this is just some numbers of the cases that we wanted to highlight. Sexual assault investigations, they investigated 70 of those last year. Felony assaults, shooting investigations, 20. 3 homicides, 33 arrests were made from the investigations unit, and they authored 100 search warrants. And if you'll see some of the highlights down there in the county of Yuba, we have over 249 sex offenders that are registered, and they also oversee those folks, and they do compliance checks on them quarterly, sometimes monthly, depending on the status of the offender. So they have a huge responsibility, and they're doing an excellent job in there. It's comprised of 6 deputies, 2 sergeants that oversee the unit, a CSO, and somebody who does our forensic examinations of cell phones and computers. And you see that 93 cell phones were forensically examined last year by that individual. Other special units, our crisis negotiations team, CNT. CNT obviously, so they respond to each and every SWAT deployment that we have in the county. They were called out 8 times last year for other critical incidents ranging from barricaded shooting suspects to suicidal suspects. CNT is comprised of 5 members and a sergeant that oversees the unit. Last year, they were able to take possession of a trailer that you'll see in the background of the photograph there. That was from another sheriff's department, and turned it into their command post. So it has, their computers, their phones, and things inside. If you ever get a chance, you want to come over and see it. It's pretty impressive what they've done with a donated trailer. Somewhat new last year was the unmanned aerial vehicle program, the UAV program. So our drones, we currently have 3 drones, and we're becoming more and more reliant on those drones. Each of them has special capabilities. One has a thermal imaging, so we use it at night. One has a glass breaking device, and more and more often, the drone team is being called out just, during pursuits, searches. It prevents deputies from going into harm's way. Just a great asset for us. And I'm expecting it's probably going to become the new norm for law enforcement, is continued use of more and more drones. If you have any questions as we move along, you can raise your hand or get my attention, and I'll be happy to answer them. And I'll also at the end take questions. Special Weapons and Tactics team. In 2022, they had 17 call-outs. You may not know we do have a regional team. So the members of our team are comprised of the Yuba City Police Department, Marysville Police Department, and the Yuba County Sheriff's Department. And they train 18 times a year and in multiple different things. Can you hear me okay? So SWAT obviously is an ancillary duty. Deputies assigned are called out, for SWAT deployments, but they do train annual or monthly, and they trained for about 144 hours last year, served 10 high-risk search warrants, and were called out for 7 barricaded subjects. The K9 unit is this next special unit. We currently have 4 K9s. 1 is assigned to the foothills, 3 to the valley. And again, just a huge deterrent for us. And, when the K9s are utilized, it means that a deputy doesn't go into harm's way. They had 182 deployments last year alone. And I don't have the current stats as to this year, but it's going to be on pace for that this year as well. And the next special unit that we have is the Marine Patrol. We have boats that patrol Bulwards Bar, Camp Far West, Collins Lake, both rivers, and about half of Englebright. And in the summer months, we have a unit that is assigned to Bulwards Bar on a daily basis, 5 days a week. And then we have ancillary, they're actually reserve retired annuitants that work up there, patrol Bulwards, and wherever else as needed. The Search and Rescue Unit. search and rescue is actually consists of our volunteers, search and rescue, and also our technical rescue team, which is members of our department from the jail and patrol. We have about 48 members of that, and they're heavily used, especially during the wintertime, for missing people as a regional asset, also with our neighboring jurisdictions. If you read through the report, you'll see that they were called out 41 times last year. Missing persons, animal care services assist, evidence searches, dive recoveries, rescue of stranded subjects, and fire incidents. They also attend regular training, 70 different trainings, and 32 community events. They respond to our Be Prepared Fair, all of our community events that we have in the Valley floor, and just provide this county with the service that we wouldn't otherwise have. We rely heavily upon those volunteers, and they do a tremendous job for us. Animal care services, all of you are familiar with that. That also falls within the Sheriff's Department. And just a few numbers from last year, they had 292 adoptions, 3,124 calls for service. They're also the license issuing department for animals, and they issued over 3,700 licenses, submitted 50 specimens for rabies, issued complaints totaling over 1,200, and citations of 261. We actually had 219 dog bites last year in Yuba County, which they're required to respond to each and every one, and 35 cat bites as well. On to the Communications and Records Division. As you can see highlighted there, it's a very busy place, and about 65,000 calls last year came through our emergency center. They dispatched for Wheatland PD, Wheatland Fire, Linda Fire, obviously the Sheriff's Department, probation, and the District Attorney's Office when needed, probation, parole. So they're very, very busy. They issued almost 5,500 reports to our deputies last year. I probably should point out that of those 65,000 calls, probably around 25,000 of those are self-initiated. So traffic stops, pedestrian contacts, with the deputies just being busy, but they're also calls for service that go through our dispatch center. And then on to the Jail and Civil Division. Did a tremendous job last year, obviously. Despite the low numbers, I think our average daily population last year was about 238, and that's due heavily to COVID. As of today, it's about 300. So we've been opening up, arresting a lot more people. We're able to arrest more people without COVID restraints, and they wore masks in the jail for about 2 years and did their jobs 12 hours a day wearing masks, and did just a tremendous job. They're the unsung heroes of our department, and as county council can attest, they go through a lot. We have the inspections that they have. As you know, last year, the Immigration Customs Enforcement decided to terminate their contract with the Yuba County Jail, and they stepped up, and now they're housing U.S. Marshals there to try to offset that deficit. And I can't speak highly enough for the staff over there, everything that they do. Included in that is the Civil Department. You'll see some of the civil stats. They performed 205 evictions, 237 restraining orders were served, property levies, bank levies, jury trials, and so you'll see the total number of services there. So aside from serving civil papers, they're responsible for courtroom security as well. So each courtroom that is active and ongoing has to have a bailiff inside, which comes from that division. The next page, it's just awards and recognition, Officer of the Year, Correctional Officer of the Year, all the way down to our Reserve Officers of the Year. So calls for service, as you can see, it's broken down. Last year we had 3 homicides, Just to highlight some of those, domestic violence tops the chart with our calls. We had 365 calls for domestic violence last year. And I'm sure when you see the up-to-date stats, looking traditionally over the past couple of years, there are ebbs and flows, but for the most part, these remain pretty close across the board. So the numbers for flock are in there. They're not they don't jump out at you, but just keep in mind that was only for 1 year. I mean, for 1 month of stats. So the up-to-date stats for flock, I'll get to, are pretty impressive. And those of you who aren't familiar with flock, I'm sure all of you are, but it's our license plate reader system that we have here in the county. Year to date, as of yesterday, we had recovered and returned 80 stolen vehicles to their rightful owners because of LPR hits. We were alerted 900 times for stolen vehicles or stolen plates. Assisted in solving 5 ongoing investigations ranging from homicide to aggravated assault. So I think as we dive further into the flock stats, and we'll submit those in the annual report to you, up-to-date stats as well. And I'll provide you with copies of what I have here. But the average number of plates scanned per month by our flock license plate cameras is 150,000. We share with about 24 agencies, all within the state of California, all of which also have flock capability, and we're able to utilize their cameras as well. We have 33 cameras installed throughout our jurisdiction as of right now, and I think the stats speak for themselves. And like I said, I'll provide you with these before I leave, and you can look them over. There's also a public dashboard on flock safety that you can go and look at, but just has been a game changer for us and for our local law enforcement partners. CHP, it's not reflective in here, but CHP also gets alerts for our flock cameras and are able to respond to those immediately as they come in by text to their cell phones, should they choose to set it up that way. And it's just been impressive. I'm going through a lot of information really quick. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Through the chair, any questions, board?
As far as calls to marijuana grows, is that up, down?
Well, the self-initiated calls are up, and I have those stats. I was going to go over those. Are not in the annual report, but a lot of people don't know. We receive federal funding on an annual basis from the Department of Cannabis Control on the federal side. Last year, we got about $15,000, which really didn't do a lot. So our numbers, I think last year, I have them, were fairly dismal, but this year it's been a different story. We've served numerous search warrants this year. As of today, we've eradicated 18,000 plants, and this year we got $50,000 from the federal government instead of 15. And our first grant was for $25,000. And then immediately following that, we got another $25,000 from them as well. And that was based on our activity in Yuba County. And I have some numbers I'll share with you here as soon as I find them. So we don't, most of the calls for marijuana go into code enforcement, Mr. Blaser. And then they're parsed out from there. So when they determine that it meets the threshold for a criminal warrant, that would go to our METU program. Most of the gardens, all of the gardens that we have responded to this year have been from overflights, self-initiated, our deputies going out and spotting the large, very large grows. And when I say large grows, we're not looking at anything. Every grow that we've hit this year has been over 1,000 plants, one being as high as 2,500. So if you ever want to see the marijuana in Yuba County, we'll get you up in a helicopter and you can go look at it. I think Mr. Fuhrer has done that, and up in the foothills, it's pretty prevalent.
Yeah. We'll try to do. I had one other quick question. The schools have a pretty sophisticated system of notification of issues. And how does the sheriff's department tie into that?
That's a good question. So they use what's called a catapult system. So it notifies us, those of us that are selected to be notified. So all of our deputies have that ability, and they get notified, and it sends a text to your phone. It's a text. You get the text, you open it up, and it's immediate. So just like their staff, we receive those same text warnings, and they're leveled yellow and red based on priority. So obviously, if we see a red, and also in the headline, we get a lot of those messages that are just drills and things, but we get an instant notification as soon as the school puts something out.
Okay, thanks.
Back to your marijuana numbers. So last year we had 14,000 plants that we harvested, and 2 arrests were made. This year we're at 18,000 plants with 24 arrests. So refocus on the marijuana this year. I think it's some different personnel that are assigned up there. It's an ancillary duty as well, so they do it on their time off. But we just have a group of deputies working in the hills who are very proactive on the marijuana. And as I said, these are marijuana grows that are tied to drug trafficking organizations, Mexican cartels, Chinese nationals are very prevalent up in our hills right now. So they've been hitting them pretty hard, making a lot of arrests, and a lot of the arrests were, not just for marijuana cultivation, but for environmental crimes, contaminated stream beds, altering stream beds, water theft, and they're finding not just marijuana when they serve their search warrants. They're finding other illicit illegal drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine. So they've had a very productive year, and I'm sure by the end of the year the numbers will be even higher.
Thank you.
Excuse me. The marijuana contamination of water, those are all violations of federal law, if I understand things. And are we
in California as well?
Okay, but are we putting people in jail because of some of the federal regulations? Because I think Fed crimes don't have a revolving door the same way we do.
The most of the arrests that we make are for state violations, state statutes of the Penal Code, Health and Safety Code, and Welfare and Institutions Code. We utilize Fish and Game pretty heavily. They respond to those grow with us with their environmental team, but I think for the most part they focus on state penalties. If the DA has, am I on par with that? So we haven't been able to get the federal government to adopt a case at this point. Not that we don't try, but they just don't take a lot of marijuana cases or environmental cases. But we have found some ways, such as the environmental impact law, tax evasion, those types of things, where we're able to charge these individuals with felonies at the state level. Okay. And I know our DA, and I know that he will prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
There was a situation in Los Angeles. They went back to no cash bail, according to the newspaper. And my question is, how can we, if they went back to no cash bail, how can we make
well, so there are a lot of things that I see that they do in LA that God help us if we get to that point. And I think, we have local control on many of those things, including our bail schedule. And I believe that was a county ordinance, if I'm not wrong. It's the court. So it's the court in LA. But we haven't had those discussions, nor do I hope, unless it's mandated by the state. I don't think you're going to have the Yuba County courts ever be reflective of LA.
They're destroying our communities. The smash and grab. Was it 20 major stores have left San Francisco?
Yeah, I actually heard today that they're closing down the mall in San Francisco, and most of the retail, all of the retail, the major chains are closing down in San Francisco. So, I think that goes to the accountability that that they had for those violations and the lack of accountability, I guess.
I'm just curious as to how the state can condemn the entire state to lawlessness.
Close that one to our governor. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Through the chair.
Sorry.
I had a question. You mentioned Chinese nationals as part of the group. I'm just curious. Obviously, with the cartels, I understand, I think, what's going on in that dynamic. With Chinese nationals, is it just individual private businessmen looking for an entrepreneurial opportunity, or is there something larger than that?
Well, I think a little bit of both. So I think that we're seeing both in Yuba County. We are actually, and this is a case from a couple of years ago, but we were able to work the case up, hand it over to the federal government, and they tied it all the way back to China. So no doubt it's a drug trafficking organization. And I think we're seeing that now. We just have to just connect the dots. And that could be the tough part, is connecting those dots. We were following up with, after we served the search warrants on the last one that we did, we served some search warrants on some banks, safety deposit boxes, financial records. And I think that's how we're going to have to tie those back to drug trafficking organizations. But I would say that I would guess that they're affiliated to some organization that is making money off of marijuana in Yuba County.
All right. And so just with the cartels, if I remember correctly, they actually bring people up and there's a bit of slavery and human trafficking that's going on in the grows. With the Chinese organized crime grows, what sort of ancillary type issues do you have?
Well, the same ones. So, we're concerned with slavery, blackmail, you name it. So we've actually reached out to the FBI to go with us to those sites when we have those potentials. So they can talk to them about the potential for the slave labor, blackmail, extortion, you name it, that I can guess what goes on. We're a little bit limited what we can actually even, we can't even ask them their immigration status per SB 54. So it's a challenge to investigate that, but I think bringing the FBI on will, with their focus being, on that and solely on that, will help, anybody. They won't talk to us, to be honest with you. They won't give us details. Even when, we have interpretation that we use, language line and whatnot. And it's just getting the information from them is very difficult. So
with the cartels, it seems like there's almost like a box model that they use, and everything is just replicated, move to the next place, do the same model, and just keep shifting to stay ahead of the law enforcement. Does the Chinese model match and mimic that same, or no, they have something distinctly different? Do they do it in a different way?
Well, so I will tell you that we have seen a lot of the Chinese national grows are indoor grows, so they're different, physically. The drug trafficking cartels tend to be outside large grows. The most recent ones that we've hit with the Chinese nationals are indoor grows, so they're taking homes, converting them to grow houses, and we've seen that over the past couple of years. That has been their norm.
I have another question. With the open border situation and the increased gang activity up here, are we gearing up for that? Because I know the Edgewater was blasted with all sorts of graffiti and.
Yeah, no, and that's a good question. And whether it's related to the open borders or not, gang problems are always an issue. We are still members of Net 5, and we have the gang task force. We are trying to be more proactive in our response. We have YSAGE, which is Yuba-Sutter anti-gang enforcement, and we're trying to do that more frequently, once a month at least, where we, all the local agencies pull their resources. As far as the border security, I don't think we know what that impact is yet. I think we're going to see that in the coming years. In fact, in November of this year, the CSSA, the California State Sheriff's Association, is going to take a trip to San Diego, and we are going to see firsthand. We're going to go to the border, and we are also going to go to some of the reception centers and have some training. You know, we have very few border counties in California that border the Mexico border, but we're all impacted by it. So I think we'll learn a lot from talking to Imperial County, to San Diego County, as to what they're seeing, and everything that they see there tends to move here. So we're trying to get ahead of it. We're trying to figure out what exactly the impacts are going to be. We know that, you know, the fentanyl, the methamphetamine is coming across the border in droves, and, you know, we are trying to combat that the best we can. And we've had some pretty large scale operations that I can't really discuss right now because they're ongoing investigations, but we had some major seizures of fentanyl and methamphetamine over the past couple months.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right. Any further questions?
Well, I didn't get into some of our other special units are worth noting, and some things that we have moving forward in Yuba County. I didn't talk about Measure K, and you know, Measure K is our saving grace. I think, you know, it has enabled us to purchase the flock cameras, purchase body cameras. The technology that we've been able to acquire because of Measure K has just been tremendous. We're in the process now of, you know, at any time we're going to sign a contract. We've been through the RFP process on a new CAD system, so a new dispatching system, records management system, jail management system, and to replace our 30-year-old system that we have. So that's going to be kicking off probably here in the next month or so. We don't have a timeline for the transition yet. It's going to be a long process, but
Which museum are you going to donate that to?
Yeah, right. I don't know that anybody would want it, but it has served its purpose for 30 years for us, and so I'm thankful for that. But I'm also excited about what the future brings with the new software that we're going to be getting. Can't wait to see it in action. It's going to be a little while, and it's going to be a long process. We have to migrate all of our data from the old system to the new system. So it's going to be a daunting task, and it's going to require a lot of help from different departments. IT has been great and been working with us. But I getting off track a little bit, but you know, that's because of Measure K and the funding that it provides right now. You know, with the deficits that we faced, we have about 26 positions that are allocated by Measure K throughout the department. A lot of the vehicles that we purchase are Measure K funded. We have a SWAT vehicle that we're going to be taking possession of at the end of this month that is funded by Measure K. So I just want to thank the taxpayers, first of all, for that. And thank you all for your dedication to public safety. I'll take any and all questions. I usually don't talk this long, so.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Okay.
And we will have that end of year report for you. I don't have a date, but timeline is July, and it'll look a little different than what you see there with some included information. But I would also like to say that, you know, with the partnerships that we have with probation and our district attorney's office, you know, without those partnerships, we couldn't do our jobs. We wouldn't be effective. We wouldn't be able to, you know, follow these cases up with the accountability piece that is so important, you know, to prevent and deter crime.
Well, thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you very much. And thank you for backing me on the call.
That was interesting, yes. All right, public communication, I think. All right. Public communication.
Any Any person may speak about any subject of concern, provided it is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors and is not already on today's agenda. The total amount of time allotted for receiving such public communication shall be limited to a total of 15 minutes, and each individual or group will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Prior to this time, speakers are requested to fill out a request to speak card and submit it to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. If you are participating via Zoom and wish to comment, please use the raise hand function or *9 if participating on a phone. Please note, no board action can be taken on comments made under this heading.
Okay. Do we have any cards?
Through the chair, we've got no hands raised on Zoom and 2 cards. The first one is Tony Farley.
There you go. Yeah, I'm 25 from South City, South Shore County. Here to talk about, thank you for the sheriff, for the crime in, of course, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Francisco, Fresno. A lot of big cities have crime. Of course, New York City has more crime, so Chicago and Detroit. So thank you thank you, County Administrator, County Council, Andy, District 1, John, District 5, Gary, District 4, Seth, District 2, District 2, and Don, District 1. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Probation. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
And the next card is from Mr. Tom McWhorter.
Good morning, board. Tom McWhorter, Olive Hurst. How you guys doing today? Pretty good presentation. I'm here to discuss parking caused by the lack of maintenance of our drainage ditches in Olive Hurst. There are 2 new buildings, actually homes, at 1860 15th Street. Cross street is Fleming Avenue. And the ditches are so bad there that the people who park there don't even park on the dirt. They are parking on the asphalt and don't even want to get onto the dirt for whatever reason. This problem has been brought up to the CHP to be addressed because it is impacting traffic flow there. Okay. We're not talking a little bit. We're talking they're taking up 1/3 of the lane there. Now, if the people on the other side decide to park, now you've got 1/3 less, not two-way traffic. So if the drainage problem were fixed, in other words, maybe a pipe put in and covered over, those people might be able to park in the road that's designed to be parked on. So, you know, maybe you guys could look into that. Again, I did talk to the CHP. It's been over a month. I know the wheels of government turn very slow. However, they do get sped up a lot when an accident occurs. And this problem has been raised several times. So is it a matter of negligence or just for 68 years of negligence? So we've got an issue, you know, it's raising its ugly head again. And I would like to encourage the board to please do something, okay? 68 years, a long time. And our drainage ditches are overdue maintenance and they're falling apart, and the infrastructure is a county issue, not how many driveways cross it. So, you know, maybe our public works department can some effort towards getting the entire street between the telephone poles so that it could be used completely by county residents. So anyway, with that, the other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is, I don't know if you have addressed the Brown Act and allowing the public to use the nice screens that we pay for. I mean, that presentation by the sheriff was really nice. By the Arts Center was really nice. However, the only thing I've ever seen up here is 2 black and white pictures, which were presented to you in color, but the public didn't get to see that. So please revisit the Brown Act, allow us to use these nice screens that we pay for, and have a nice week.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. We have other. That's it. Okay. County departments, we have a time certain 10:30 item. So we'll go to public guardian. Item 115. All right. Go ahead. Approved memorandum of understanding with Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health for fiscal year July 1st, 22 through June 30th, 2024. Okay.
Good morning. This is for public guardian conservatorship services that are provided to residents of Yuba County that are also Sutter Yuba mental health clients. And we're based on referrals. So it is for investigations, ongoing management, and we are for petitioning the Sutter County Superior Court for guardianship to oversee and supervise treatment, placement, which is, if someone's been deemed gravely disabled. This is an ongoing agreement with Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health. It provides services and payment for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024. The parties both agree that it will be reviewed on an annual for the reimbursement. For 22-23 fiscal year, the calculated compensation paid to the public guardian is $321,744. However, due to the funding availability by Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health, public guardian will be reimbursed at $178,860. For 23-24, the fiscal year compensation is $359,817, which includes 10% administration costs. And that will be billed in 12 equal payments totaling $359,817. The fiscal impact for non-general fund, the funding source Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health is $178,860 for fiscal year 22-23, $359,817 for fiscal year 23-24. And so the recommendation is to approve the MOU between Yuba County Public Guardian and Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health for conservatorship services fiscal year July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2024, and authorize chair to sign.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions for the board? No questions for the board. Any questions for the public? All right. We'll bring it back to the board. I have a question though. When is the last time we've ever audited? Behavioral cells. I would request that if it hasn't been in the past couple of years, that maybe we might want to look at getting some figures. Would that be possible?
If I could, through the chair. Yeah, so that we have a 50-year-old arrangement between Yuba and Sutter counties for mental health services, or now behavioral health services. And we are actively engaged in reevaluating that relationship. That's an ongoing effort in trying to increase transparency, not only on the funding that comes in to provide those services, but the services provided themselves. So the agreement that the public guardian is presenting before the board today is a short-term agreement, because we'd really like to revisit the long-term working relationship between the two counties on this particular issue, and frankly revisit the 50-year-old agreements in place and see if there's room for improvement there, and incorporate public guardian services as part of that in the future.
But still, would it be possible to get an audit? Because I like that fact that they give you 321,000, but due to funding availability, it ends up being short into the stick. But if we have not had an audit for many, many years, would that be possible to get?
That's part of the overall effort to audit the funding sources that are coming into Sutter Yuba Behavioral Health.
Don't we as the county have a right to know how our money's being?
Yes. So appreciate the comment, Chair, and we are working on it.
Okay, all right. Any further questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Presentation. Probation authorized budget adjustment request in the amount of $494,000 from account AB 178 grant funding to account. I'll let you give that number out. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair of the Board, board members. My name is James Morales, and I'm a probation program manager for the probation department. So probation is requesting the board authorize the budget adjustment request as a result of an awarded grant. So on April 13th of this year, probation department was awarded $494,742 by the Board of State Community Corrections for the Mobile Probation Services vehicle grant. The probation department will use grant funds to purchase a multi-use vehicle to serve homeless and rural probation clients unable to receive services at fixed locations. Grant funds will be used to purchase a customized 36-foot vehicle from Nomad CGS. The vehicle will consist of 3 separate rooms, allowing multiple confidential services to be provided at any given time. The river bottoms and the foothills are just a few locations where we will deploy the vehicle. Additionally, we will take the vehicle to community events to engage the general public, and it can be used as a resource during crises such as wildfires and floods. The vehicle will be equipped with Wi-Fi, allowing those in close proximity to stay connected. We want this resource to be an asset to all members of the community, and we look forward to collaborating with other agencies and organizations to provide a variety of services to the community at varying locations.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All right, we'll bring it back to the board.
Congratulations on the grant. I'll move to approve.
No, second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Measure passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Community Development and Services authorized auditor controller to disperse $1,067,282 in Measure D funds from Fund 807 to County Road Fund, City of Marysville and City of Wheatland using previously determined formulas. So we're going to give money at the city level. Yeah.
Good morning, Board Chair, fellow supervisors, Sam Bunton, Assistant Director, Yuba County Public Works. So this is an item about Measure D, also known as the Resource Depletion Tax. Yuba County voters approved Measure D in November of 2004 and established a 15-cent per ton fee on all aggregate and asphalt concrete produced in the county. The following year in 2005, the board decided on an allocation of the funds, with half being dedicated to aggregate haul routes, so roads like Hamilton-Smartsville, in the county, and the other half divided by maintained miles between Yuba County, City of Marysville, and City of Wheatland. And so today, Public Works, we recommend the authorization we recommend to authorize the auditor controller to disperse $1,067,282.32 in Measure D funds from Fund 807 to the county treasurer for a 3% admin fee, County Road Fund, City of Marysville, and the City of Wheatland. Any questions from the board?
Any questions from the board?
Through the chair, Kevin, does this relate to tipping or not?
No, so the tipping fee is a separate arrangement with solid waste that's deposited at the Austin Road landfill. So this is specific to aggregate resources extracted within the county from the different active mining operations.
Okay, thanks.
It's a self-imposed tax on all the gravel that they haul out of there. Okay, no further questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
The gravel, was it Matthews? Thank you. All right. We're time certain on the budget, so we'll go to item of public interest. Community development, make a finding of a public convenience necessity for a type 20 ABC license for AM/PM at River Oaks. That is, okay. Hi, Kevin.
Through the chair, I'm Kevin Perkins, Community Development. Community Development received an application from ARCO AM/PM, the new ARCO AM/PM that has been constructed in Plumas Lake on the northwest corner of Plumas Lake Boulevard and River Oaks Boulevard. As your board knows, anytime a new ABC type 20 or 21 license comes in the county, your board, excuse me, your board needs to make a finding of convenience or necessity in order for them to get the license. This stems back from a 1998 moratorium that ABC has put on a number of jurisdictions in the state. In the case of ARCO AM/PM, they're seeking a type 20 license. The type 20 license would allow only beer and wine to be sold off site. In your staff report, ARCO AM/PM provided a justification why convenience would be met in your board granting this application, and also provided a safety plan to show how they're going to ensure safety with selling alcohol at the store. I'm here to answer any questions your board might have.
Okay. Well, Supervisor Bradford, it's your district.
I don't have any questions nor any concerns.
Okay. All right. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All right, bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I just want to make sure it's clear. So did your motion include you're making a finding of convenience?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Do we need to revote or clarify that? All right, so matter of convenience, the motion's been modified in the second also. Okay, and the vote stands. All right. Community Development Services, make a finding. That's the next. Yeah, I'll let you do that one.
All right, through the chair, Kevin Perkins, Yuba County Community Development. Yuba County Community Development received an application from Costco for a type 20 ABC license at the new Costco that's getting built at 1214 North Beale Road at the old Feather River Center or mall site in Linda. A type 20 license would allow Costco to sell or type 21, license would allow Costco to sell all types of alcohol. Again, in the staff report, Costco provided a justification as to why convenience would be met by if your board decides to make a finding of convenience or necessity, and did provide a safety plan on how they'll ensure safety with the alcohol sales at their store. I'm here to answer any questions your board might have.
Any questions of the board? I have a question. It's just more of a statement. It's Costco's not open to the general public, just like Sam's Club. It's a membership only. So, are there different rules for, say, homeless or other laws that apply to the membership rather than?
I do believe in California, membership stores like Sam's Club and Costco are required to sell alcohol to anyone, regardless of having a membership. But in their staff report, in their justification to the county, they did provide their security plan in selling alcohol to anyone that comes to their store.
Okay. All right. All right. Bring it back to the board for motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it with the findings.
Good convenience.
Good convenience.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We still have a few minutes here. We'll start going through ordinances and public hearings.
If you challenge in court the action or decision of the Yuba County Board of Supervisors regarding a zoning, planning, land use, or environmental protection matter made at any hearing described in this notice, You may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at such hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the Yuba County Board of Supervisors at or prior to such hearing. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual or group. Item 281-2023, ordinance hold public hearing. Waive second reading and adopt ordinance amending title of Chapter 2.85 of the Yuba County Ordinance Code relating to validity for pay warrants and Section 2.85.010 time for presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Morning, we'll open the public hearing.
This is the second reading of the ordinance we brought to your board, the amendment to an ordinance we brought to your board last board meeting. And the purpose of this is to bring the county in line with banking regulations and financial best practices, and to allow our staff to increase the efficiency of their operations in dealing with processing and validity of warrants. Any additional questions that you have for me at this time about this ordinance amendment?
Okay, any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
That was quick. All right, item 256, Community Development Services. We'll open the public hearing.
Good morning again to the board. Sam Button, Assistant Director, Yuba County Public Works. So this is the last step in the annual process for the Glen Hill Landscaping and Lighting District. The assessment shown in the engineer's report provides revenue to operate the district for the upcoming fiscal year, 23-24. And there has been no change in the assessment rate from last year's rate. And these funds are used to maintain landscaping, repair equipment, improve irrigation, and other work required to operate the district. So today, Public Works, we recommend that the Board of Supervisors adopt the attached resolution adopting the budget for Glen Hill Landscaping and Lighting District.
Okay, any questions for the board? Any questions from the public? Oh, I already opened it at the beginning. Okay, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have to close the public hearing, don't we? Okay, close public hearing, and we have a motion and a second. Motion and a second.
Motion.
Roll call vote.
Second.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Item 271. Well, the public hearing on community development services. Go ahead.
Awesome. Sam Button again, Yuba County Public Works. Another annual item, the last three that I'm doing today, all for CSAs and landscape and lighting districts. So today is for the count, or this item is for the county service assessment summary. Every year we bring it before the Board of Supervisors to adopt with the budget. The assessments for each CSA or county service area vary depending on new parcels. So things created from like parcel maps or tract maps, as well lot line adjustment structures, vacant land, and the consumer price index fluctuate these items. So the total annual revenue for all the CSAs combined for this upcoming fiscal year is estimated at $4,805,951.51. And so today, the Department of Public Works recommends that the Board of Supervisors hold a public hearing and approve the attached county service assessment summary. I guess one thing that I want to mention real quick too, the only big change as in the list of CSAs that the county has from last year is County Service Area 60 was dissolved later or previous in the year. So any questions from the board?
Any questions from the board? Any questions for the public? All right, we'll bring it back to the board. We'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Item 257, Community Development Services, public hearing. We'll open the public hearing.
Sam Button, Yuba County Public Works again. So last item for us and last of the annual items for the Glad Hill and Linda in the county service area summary. So this one is for the Linda Street Lighting Maintenance District. It was formed in 1967. The annual expense of maintenance, sorry, I lost my spot in my notes. But so this is the third step to adopt the budget. On May 9th of this year, the Public Works came before for a public hearing to adopt a resolution determining and imposing assessments within the Linda Street Lighting District. These assessments fund the annual expenses of maintenance and operations for the electrical street lighting system owned, maintained, and operated by PG&E. And so today, the Public Works Department, we recommend that the Board of Supervisors hold a public hearing and adopt the attached resolution for the budget for Linda Street Lighting Maintenance District. Any questions from the board?
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? We'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second. We'll close the public hearing. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so item 231, Community Development and Services, public hearing. We'll open the public hearing and Mr. Perkins.
Through the chair, Kevin Perkins, Yuba County Community Development. This next item is a resolution that would allow community development to apply to HCD for a housing survey report. So effectively, a little background is with our community development block grant funding program, we're only allowed to have $35,000 at any given time in our program income. And what program income is, it's income that comes into our community development block grant program from either loan payoffs or loan payments that come in for ongoing loans that we have. And in this case, given that we have an excess, we have to have a program to apply the funding to. One of the requirements when your board adopted our 21 to 2029 housing element update was HCD required that Yuba County do a housing survey report, which basically goes through all the housing in the county. We'll actually have staff go through all the streets in the county and with criteria and rate every house that we have in the county. You know, a lot of times the state gives us these requirements without funding to do so. So in this particular planning grant study that we're seeking to do, it would allow funding for a planner and a code enforcement officer to spend 1 to 2 days a week driving through the county and taking an inventory of all of the houses that we have. The benefit of this is to show as part of our housing element that Yuba County is improving through our programs like owner-occupied rehab and various things that we're improving the housing stock, the existing housing stock in the county. And so that's what this grant would fund. When you apply for planning grants, we typically apply up to $250,000. We won't necessarily use that much money, but it's better to apply for the bulk and not use it than have to come back and ask for an amendment from your board. So I'm here to answer any questions on the program.
Okay. All right, any questions?
When you say rate the houses, what does that mean?
So they're going to go through and there's going to be a criteria to determine, like, so for example, like brand new homes in Plumas Lake would be rated, high, no issues, and then we'd have homes that, might have code enforcement cases for substandard housing. And that would on the scale that we come up with would be rated low. And we're basically going to keep almost like an Excel spreadsheet or a report that has a rating for each one of the houses that we can show HCD that we've done this and will allow us to apply for further grants in areas that might have substandard housing or a higher level of housing that isn't on the higher scale.
And so code enforcement cases that are already open and active, you obviously could have had interior knowledge of what was going on. But for the new houses that have not had a pre-existing code enforcement case, these would just be exterior superficial.
Yeah, this is basically a drive-by survey. We're not going to go inside the houses. We're not going to open up. The plan isn't to open up any new code enforcement cases unless we go by a house and it's literally falling down and from the road it looks unsafe to occupy. But this is just literally a window survey, so to speak, where the code enforcement officer and the planner will either drive in a car, really slow down a road, or walk up and down the road with a clipboard or an iPad and just do a rating system. It's not going to be super detailed.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Any further questions from the public? All right, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez?
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser?
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer?
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford?
Yes.
Supervisor Messick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, item 264, Community Development Services Public Hearing. We'll open the public hearing.
All right, so this next item are updated guidelines to a CDBG program that we currently have approval from HCD, but HCD from 2022, and we needed to update our program guidelines. Before we can actually get this program off the ground, both the board and HCD need to approve the guidelines, which is what is in front of you. And again, this program is our Homebuyer Assist program, which would allow loans, zero interest loans for a period of 30 years that would need to be payable either if the property owner moved out of the house or sold the house or potentially refied, but we could work through that. But effectively what we're seeking is up to $80,000 per property. And again, there's a loan committee that your board has adopted that all these loans would go to get review and approval. We're trying to get the highest amount possible on this, just so we don't have to come back to your board with any other modifications for the program. But this would allow people that made 80% of the average monthly income to pay down some down payment. They could pay down closing costs. They could buy down interest rates to lower their interest rate. Those are the types of things that this is covering. The reason the dollar amount is increased is, again, the people who qualify this program make 80% of the average monthly income. And for someone to be able to afford a house, homes in Yuba County have gone up significantly. To be able to afford a house, there's only a certain amount of payment that a person is going to meet or be able to meet to still qualify for this program. Additional information on this program is it does require a 5% down payment from the property owner to qualify for this program. So that's kind of a quick summary of the program. I'm here to answer any questions that your board may have for me.
All right, any questions from the board? Any questions from the public?
If I may. So this program, I was just curious, there are programs in the community through nonprofits that are duplicative of this program. Are we going to be farming this out to them to manage, or are we going to be doing it in-house?
So that's a good question. So right now we haven't decided on that. This is just to get the guidelines done. There are some parts of this that we would like to do in-house. Our CDBG person that we have, some of the funding for their position would come from the general admin on this, but we could farm out some of the income qualifications and other aspects of this program. But we'd have to do that once the program's approved. HCD would require us to submit show that we've submitted an RFP or released an RFP to the public to be able to do so. So if we do decide to move forward with having one of our nonprofit partners help us with this, then we'll come back to the board with an RFP on that.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Sorry to cut you off there. Questions from the public? All right, we'll bring it back to the board, close the public hearing, and entertain a motion.
I submit.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Messick.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes. Take a brief.
Yeah, we- All right, we'll take a 4-minute recess here.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Funded. So we'll have 13 unfunded positions total, 7 that are related to the general fund, the other 6 non-general fund sources. But you have 940 positions that are funded. Currently, our workforce, we're roughly at 830 positions. It ebbs and flows each month. But that delta there, you have over 100 vacant positions that we're still actively trying to fill. But I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of, the context related to the vacant positions that we either deleted or unfunded. All right, some other highlights. And this was another item that was before the board earlier this year. There was a presentation by our Public Works Department that went over all of the drainage projects that they've been doing and plan to be doing. There was a lot of conversation around, there's a lot of capital projects in terms of drainage projects that are being done. The Yuba Water Agency has been a great partner with the county on getting those accomplished. And there was conversation around the fact that is there more that could be done in terms of drainage maintenance? Looking at our historic communities of Linda and Olivehurst, and frankly, the entire unincorporated areas where, if we had more money, could we do more on terms of just drainage maintenance? After that conversation with the board, we were able to go back and discuss our ongoing arrangement with the water agency to fund drainage capital projects as well as drainage maintenance. And we were able to amend the agreement between the county and the water agency that's resulting in this proposed budget for next fiscal year to have an increase of roughly $500,000 focused on drainage maintenance. Now, Public Works will kind of discuss the details with the board at the August budget workshops, and then we can talk about whether any adjustments need to be made. But that is a highlight that I wanted to point out, that trying to respond to that direction that the board provided earlier this year. The other highlight, the budget has over $30 million in capital projects contained in this proposed budget. Nearly all of those capital projects are funds pulled in from outside of the county. For example, about 7 million of the projects that are identified in the proposed budget are through ARPA funds. And then there's a whole series of other grant sources. And then finally, I wanted to touch on Measure K, and we'll get it. There's a slide specific to Measure K, but as a reminder, so Measure K is a 1 cent sales tax. It was approved by the voters in 2018. It has a 10-year life, so it sunsets in 2028. But in this proposed budget, we have about $6 million in ongoing services being funded through that Measure K funding source. All right, so all in on the proposed budget, we're just over $300 million. So for perspective, this is roughly $9 million less than the current fiscal year. So shrinking back slightly. Part of that is that adjustment that we had to do relative to the revenue losses with the ICE contract. Part of it is just capital projects that, you know, were in this current year that are not in the coming year. All right, so where does the revenue come from for that $301 million? And I'll get into to more detail later on, but what I want to point out here is of the $301 million, just over 50 million of that is the general fund discretionary pot, and then Measure K represents 10 million, which is also we track it separately, but it's also a fully discretionary pot as well. All right, and then this pie chart is really highlighting how that 301 million is divided up based on the functions provided by the county. So the two largest slices of the pie are the public protection slice and the social services slice. Now, public protection includes the sheriff and the district attorney, probation, public defender. The ag department is in there as well, code enforcement. And then the third largest slice of that pie is land use, which encompasses your community development and services agency functions. And then your fourth largest slice there is general government, which is essentially everybody else. A lot of the behind the scenes support for public protection, social services, health services, and land use. All right. So our general fund revenues. So we always like to provide the board some perspective on how we're progressing. As I mentioned previously, from 22-23 to 23-24, we're projecting about a 9% increase in general fund revenue. Now you'll see 18-19 through 21-22, they were kind of elevated relative to the rest of the trend. That elevation is related to, and I'll get into it here in a minute, tipping fees. So the county receives $4.40 per ton on every ton deposited into the Ostrom Road landfill. Now, 18-19, that's Camp Fire, occurred in November of 18. So 18-19 through 21-22, between the Camp Fire and other various fires, there was a lot of debris cleanup that ended up being deposited into the Ostrom Road landfill that resulted in elevated revenues coming in to the county. That's since leveled off, and we're and I guess I'll just advance to the next slide. So the tipping fee slice of this pie for the general fund revenues we're anticipating for this coming fiscal year, the tipping fee revenue is just 1.2 million. Back in some of those previous fiscal years, it was as high as $5 million. But that's more along the lines of what the normal rate of solid waste is that's coming into the Ostrom Road landfill. As you can see on here, the largest slice of the pie is from property taxes and vehicle license fee swap, which is also tied to property taxes as well. What I wanted to note in here is the tipping fees are flat from this current fiscal year, and sales tax revenue is also we're budgeting at a flat level. We all know that Costco is under construction. We're seeing, they're putting up the trusses for the roof now, so which is exciting to see them going vertical. But at this point, we aren't projecting any revenue from Costco in the proposed budget. Sean has been actively engaged with our sales tax consultant, HDL. They've been talking through the fact that although Costco will open up within the fiscal year, it's unlikely we'll receive revenues within the fiscal year. It may be in the last quarter of the fiscal year, but for budgeting purposes, we did not project any additional revenue associated with that. So this This does represent, a little over 3 million more than the previous fiscal year. So that growth really came through property tax growth, which has been on a nice steady rise. We're still building houses. The value of the houses is continuing to rise, and so there's that piece, and then also the MOU with the casino. So that MOU with the casino has a set escalator in it. Over the first 5 years, and then after that, it's tied to the consumer price index. We're still in the ramp up. So, for example, this current fiscal year, we received roughly $2 million in revenue from that MOU. The next fiscal year, we'll receive about $3 million in revenue, and then that'll jump to about $4 million the following year, and then $5 million, and then after that, once it hits the $5 million mark, then it'll track with the consumer price index. All right. So I mentioned the term reset, and this slide illustrates how things were reset by department. So there was a substantial shift, and there's two things that I want to point out in this particular slide. One is the fact that in the lower right-hand corner, the total general fund that was budgeted in the current fiscal year was $48.9 million. For the proposed budget, we're only budgeting 50.1, so it's a very small growth in appropriation. And I'll talk a little bit more about this at the tail end. We just talked about our revenue. We're anticipating a revenue of just over 44 million. So that difference is being covered by cash carryover from the current fiscal year, unspent money. That's something that the county has operated under that structure for a long time. We're trying to make inroads into getting back to where we're only appropriating what we're generating in revenue and not relying on one-time cash fund carryover. So we not only are we being conservative on appropriation growth in this, but there was also this reset. And as you can see, the departments with the red in the column there, that's where they're going to, for the proposed budget, they're going to receive less general fund than they did in the current fiscal year. So they're absorbing all of their cost increases plus some in order to realize that, so that we can shift to some of the other departments where we couldn't have cost avoidance or they had revenue loss, with the sheriff's department being the main driver behind that reset, as we talked about. All right. So as far as what that looks like in terms of how that general fund appropriation is sprinkled by function, we continue, and this has been very similar for some time, but we continue to have the nearly 3/4 of the investment and discretionary revenue going to public protection. Last year it was 71.5%. Not last year. This current fiscal year, 71.5%. For the proposed budget, 73.5%. About a 2% increase, which was shaved primarily off of general government. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit with the board about Measure K. As I mentioned, the proposed budget has just over 10.3 million appropriated. So of that 10.3 million, it's just over 3 million in capital projects, and then about just over 6 million in ongoing expenses. As far as the other way to kind of slice the pie by how it's divvied up by function, it's just over 81% of this will be appropriated to either the sheriff's department, district attorney's office, or probation, and then that remaining 18.5% is divvied up with these other departments, which are primarily going to fund either positions or technology to support the sheriff, district attorney, and probation. All right. reserves and contingencies. The county made significant inroads here back in 21-22, and we continue to recommend those same levels in this proposed budget, so that to give the board some perspective. So the general reserves, they're recommended at 4.7 million. And the policy level that was set by the board is to have a 10% general reserve. And this puts it at 10.58%. So slightly above reserves level. Okay, I'm going to run through this and then I have a comment. So the reserves for economic uncertainty, which was a new area that was set up by the board back in fiscal year 1920, and we plussed it up to the 2.5 million level in 21-22, and a slight bump is, and I believe that's interest earnings. Didn't get Sean's attention, but anyways, to 2.6 million in this graphic. So anyways, that reserves for economic uncertainty, the board had set a policy level of 5% for that. This would represent a 5.75%, so above policy level. And then our general fund contingencies amount of 1.4 million. The policy level for that is 1.5 million. And this would put it at just over 3%, so just over double the policy level. And this is an area where, and I'll actually, maybe I'll just parlay right into it as we go through these bullet points here. So in this first bullet point, and the reason why I want to highlight this or to put some perspective on it, so the investment, the general fund investment in public protection, it's at 36.8 million. I guess we rounded up here to 74%. It's 73.5%. I guess I could have been more exact in our slide, but of the general fund allocation. So we continue to the board continue. We're recommending that the board continue to invest in the public protection functions for the county. And as a perspective, when you looked back at that slide a few before, so that's 36.8 million. Aaron, I'll show you on this slide here. If you go back to 17-18, that we only had a total of $30 million of general fund for the entire county. And even in 18-19, we were just over that 36.8 million by $1 million. So, I mean, this is a significant investment that we're recommending into public protection, in addition to this the Measure K funds. And I bring that up because I think it's important for the public to hear that we're not pulling away discretionary dollars from public protection functions and substituting with Measure K. We're continuing to recommend that the board make that consistent investment in public protection, and then in addition, we invest heavily for Measure K into public protection as well. So back to those bullet points. As mentioned before, of the 10.3 million of Measure K, 8.4 million of that would go directly to the district attorney, sheriff, and probation departments. Reserves and contingencies are funded above policy levels set by the board. And then this final bullet point is what I wanted to talk a little bit about, and it ties back into those policy levels. The fund balance that we're utilizing in this proposed budget is an estimate. We won't know until we close the books on this current fiscal year where the fund balance comes in. We're being conservative in this proposed budget, so we anticipate that there will be the fund balance will come in, at or above what's in the proposed budget, and so that will definitely be a good discussion for the board and our budget workshops about where to invest in either one-time projects with that additional fund balance that comes in, and or save and increase maybe our policy levels and some of our reserves to save for a rainy day. So with that, The recommendation before the board today is to accept and adopt the proposed budget that's being presented to you for fiscal year 23-24 as the county's interim spending plan, including the position allocation changes that were attached as part of the budget package, and then direct staff to make this information available to the public. We set the August 8th and 9th for the board's budget workshops, and then set the final budget hearings to commence on September 12th. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has.
All right. Any questions for the board? No.
To the chair. Not a question. Measure K funds, it just, it's just becoming more and more apparent how critical that is. And the sunset on that is not that far out. So when do we start putting up signs?
There will be a decision point for the board prior to the November 28 election on whether or not the board wants to put a measure on the ballot to extend that measure. And the Measure K, and we're being purposeful in the budget. Although it's discretionary funds coming in, we're making sure it's called out separately as part of the budget package. It identifies, every department that's receiving Measure K funds and what the purpose of those funds are. You have the Measure K committee, oversight committee that's reviewing that as well. And so that way, and there's a website where all this information, Measure K specific information is going as well. So that way, when the board has to make that decision in 2028 on whether or not to put something before the voters, we've compiled as much information as possible about the benefits associated with the Measure K revenue.
You have a nice chart on the total general fund expenditures by function pie chart. Do you have such as
I'll put
the same thing for a non-general fund? The other 250 million.
So this is across the board. So this total appropriations by function. So this is the entire 300 million.
Okay.
Is that the one you're referring to?
Well, you had one broken down of the total general fund of the 50 million.
Okay, so the revenue sources. Yep. And then under this, we have kind of percentages for the different categories that are receiving, or the functions that are receiving general fund.
And the other one you have is the total of the 300 million.
That's correct.
But you don't have one that's 250 million.
Or that's just the 50 million?
You have the 50 and you have the 300. I just wondered if you had one that was just the 250.
Okay. Yeah, that's something we could definitely work on as far as illustrating that. Yep. Michelle's taking notes. And it's something we can definitely present at the budget workshops.
Yeah. All right. It's kind of picky, but thanks.
Any further questions from the board? I have a question, Ken. Given it's a pretty big hit for public safety, the ICE contract and all that stuff, and we were retaining $4 million in reserves. Can we set aside out of that $4 million for any unforeseen emergencies with public safety to immediately free up so they can react quickly? I'm just, it's just public safety if we have something serious happen, and give them a more of a cushion, because that's Measure K did backfill part of it, but it's still a pretty heavy hit. And
so if I could, and it actually goes back all the way to the era of Sheriff Virginia Black and the county administrator at the time, I believe, was Kent McLean. And there was an item presented to the board, and it's still the way we've been functioning. where the general fund that's appropriated to the sheriff's department each year, whatever is unspent, and the auditor can maybe make sure I'm not using the incorrect terminology. But anyways, there's essentially a fund that's focused on the sheriff's department's operations. So they have essentially a kind of a reserve that's been established by the board for some time that helps with that ebb and flow. And frankly, I believe that's what was dipped into a bit this fiscal year to absorb the impact associated with the loss of ICE contract.
Okay. And so there's a safety valve in case we have an absolute emergency. We can't sit around and think about it for a while.
Yes, there is a safety valve, but that's I definitely appreciate the comment, and it's something that we can talk through more when we have our budget workshops as far as our policies related to reserves and contingencies.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to check. When you need it, you need it. Any questions from the public? All right. So we'll bring it back to the board, I think, for the proposed budget recommendations. Do we have any comments or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We need 4/5. Roll call, please.
No, but yeah, roll call would be appropriate.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blaser,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhrer,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Messick.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. I think we got that.
All right. Thank you, board, and thank you for all of the departments working together to get this resolved. So, everyone.
Very good presentation. Thank you very much, Michelle. Oh, before we leave, can I ask Sean a question?
Oh, yeah.
Sean, yeah, well, we'll give you this question. You know, you saw the big jump in assessed valuations last year, and what are we looking at this year? Just to kind of give us an idea of how quick we're growing.
Supervisor Vasquez, thank you. I thought I was going to get off early, but Sean Powers, Assistant County Administrator. We saw some very nice growth in the assessed value last year. We're still projecting some decent growth next year. We're going to approach that very cautiously. We did see some nice value rises the last couple of years. We still see a projection of growth. We're going to watch that very carefully, but I just don't want to get ahead of ourselves and have to retract. We're having quarterly communication with Steve Shop over in the assessor's office, watching for maybe in those potential decreases, the Prop 8s that come in. I'm not really worried about anything that would happen with the Great Recession. It seems there is a decent amount of affordability for those buying those homes. And then you have a lot of people down in the new home ownership that have owned those homes multiple years now and have very good loan to value right now. It is something we'll watch closely. I don't know multiple years out if we're going to see the kind of growth that we saw before, but we still have some decent projections ahead of us. And as long as we monitor it and keep pace with it, I think we'll be in fairly good shape. And that's where we're looking at it from the revenue potential growth side of it.
Well, what's it? It's at what, 500 million now?
I don't know if we're breaking that. I'd have to look for
I think
the assessor. I don't know. I look at it all in percentages of growth and dollars in the actual of that, but I don't know if we've actually hit that in total roll yet, but they would know better.
Amazing number for the amount of people that we have staff. You know?
It is a very healthy number, and I think we will continue to get some decent single digit numbers. I think the days of the double digit are going to be behind us as we go forward. But again, monitor it closely, make sure we keep pace with it, and keep a close eye on things.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Doing a great job. I think we got correspondence and then board and staff member reports. Correspondence.
See, we have 269-2023, a letter from State of California Treasurer regarding California Kids Investment and Development Saving Programs, Cal Kids, and 280-2023, Receive notice from Central Valley Flood Protection Board regarding update on 2022 flood management funding essentials publication.
Okay. Mr. Blaser, how are you doing on there? Any?
Yes. So all of us attend a lot of meetings. I just was looking back since the last meeting. I was at Peachtree Health, Mountain County Water Agencies, Feather River Air Quality Management, the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee, and Regional Housing. Most of them are pretty routine, but on regional housing, we did talk about the final opening of the Cedar Lane affordable housing. That was the last 108 family units. And if you recall, there was a waiting list of over, I think, 1,200. So those 108 are now full. I went down and I was pretty impressed with the operation. I think the people that have the opportunity to move in there fully appreciate the opportunity they have to move into some quality housing at a reasonable price. Those affordable housing projects are under pretty strict mandates as far as maintenance. So I think in the long run, compared to maybe affordable, compared to market rate apartment complexes, I think in the long run, these are going to end up being actually better maintained and better looking than maybe some of the market rate ones, personally. If you look at some that were constructed a few years ago, you'd think it was a Best Western. I mean, they are really nice looking. So I think the concept or the fear of people when they hear affordable housing, they think it's going to be some kind of a slum project. Mm-hmm. That's just not the case. I think it's just the opposite. Yeah. So if you get a chance to go by Cedar Lane, I think it was pretty impressive what I saw. Government Affairs Committee, this is mainly an informational meeting that they do of the chamber. But one thing of note, and I think, John, you were there for that one, I think.
Yeah, which one?
Government Affairs. That's where Squadron Commander Major James Ciccone made a presentation talking about trying to encourage more contractors to work with the base and also working on trying to get more information to the base on schools, etc. But those are both good meetings. Anyway, that's all I got.
Okay. Seth?
While I was away on county business at our last meeting, investigating the road construction and public safety, since those are our two main aspects as government, I watched Brick Lane in Puerto Rico for Old San Juan, and I saw the cells where they kept the pirates in the 1700s. So I'm now a public safety expert, and I'll be giving advice forthwith. As far as other stuff, everything's going great in Oliphurst. We have lots of local community groups that are doing good things. Joseph and Company wants to give away food at the airport. We have the Moose selling tacos tonight, I think. We have the Yuba-Sutter Community Task Force Oliphurst Division that is always looking to coordinate with people and improve our community. In regards to the facade program, I have spoken to a couple of businesses there, and they are super excited about it. So I hope that we have a systematic way in which we are going to contact each and every business in my district and let them know about that opportunity, or we can just send people up and down the streets, giving them ratings, however it works out best. But lots of good stuff. I'm excited that our ditch maintenance program is going to double in size, and that Mr. McWhorter will get the service that he deserves. And I look forward to lots and lots of good things happening in our area.
Okay, Gary.
A couple items. So a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the CNU conference at the request of SACOG, and that was focused on a lot of planning topics and development topics like walkability, mixed-use zoning, and housing choice. Two, I think, big takeaways from the conference. I had the opportunity to tour the U.S. Whitewater Center and make a connection with someone there. And I have an upcoming meeting with that individual, Hard Rock and Enterprise Rancheria. They are looking to expand and would love to have a presence on the West Coast in California. And so it may be an opportunity for Enterprise Rancheria and Hard Rock as they look at potential expansion in the sports entertainment zone, that might be one thing that they're able to consider and look at. So I was excited about that. We also, one of the sessions I went to talked about mixed use walkable downtowns in suburban areas, not just in big urban cores. Also talked about kind of a housing mismatch that we're starting to see nationally. So it wasn't specific to Yuba County or anything, but the fact that 60% of our housing stock in the nation is single family homes, and only 40% of the people in the nation are looking to live in single family homes. So there's a little bit of a mismatch there. And so kind of talked about kind of ways to do some additional development to maybe change that. So, and I think we've seen we kind of have that challenge here in Yuba County as well. I know we have folks that are looking maybe for more condos or townhomes, those kind of things, apartments in some parts of the county. And so it's nice to see some more of that being built. Also related to SACOG, they are working on their 25-year regional land use and transportation plan. It's predominantly a transportation plan, but that is based on certain land use assumptions. They're looking for input from the public, from all elected officials, from community leaders. There's a survey you can take online. There's also a regional workshop this coming Friday morning. It's in Folsom. If anyone's interested in attending, you can let me know. Also, we have our monthly board meeting coming up on Thursday for SACOG, and one of the items on the agenda related to the blueprints development is kind of 3 pathways, different potential visions for the region in the future. One of them kind of is focused mostly on suburban development in the outer areas. One is focused mostly on more infill development in existing areas, and then the other is kind of a hybrid of the two, which is kind of a lot of what we're doing right now. And one of the things in the presentation for Thursday's meeting is actually the implication of those 3 choices on various transportation projects that the various jurisdictions have requested. So it kind of shows you, this choice, this is probably the transportation projects that would happen in the next 25 years. If you do this choice, here's what would happen. And if you do this choice, here's what would happen. And it's really just a modeling exercise. It's not hard and fast of what would or wouldn't happen, but it's very interesting. Also on Thursday at the meeting, there will be approving some funding for SACOG has a local match program where they'll provide some funding when you apply for like bigger great state or federal grants to help jurisdictions get those. And one of those proposed awards on the agenda is for Yuba County, something related to Earl Road and connectivity from East Linda to West Linda. So that's exciting. Also, one other thing. Last Friday was the Together We're Better golf tournament, the 2nd annual. Grew a lot this year. We had almost 90 participants, and we were able to raise about $17,000 for charity, including the United Way, the Enterprise Rancheria Community Fund, and some other local charities as well. So appreciate everyone that participated and all the local businesses and individuals that stepped up with sponsorships for that. So that's it.
I have a question, Gary. What is the development low-income housing project in Plumas Lake, that one right by?
Yeah, so that's under construction right now. It's a regional
units?
Housing project. It's ultimately there's 2 phases. The first phase, each phase is roughly 50 units. And so
Wow.
The first phase is under construction now.
That's a beautiful area. I never realized how much it's grown until you go down and drive it again, Okay. John?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the staff that we have here at the county, because it seems like every time I show up somewhere, I'm one step behind either Wendell or Mike Lee or somebody. But anyway, May 31st, I had a community meeting in Oregon House with a bunch of residents. Sounded like Mike Lee's already taking care of everything up there. The ball's rolling on that, but it was a great meeting. The 5th, June 5th, I had air quality meeting and LAFCO. I'm an alternate, but I came to the meeting anyway. And June 6th, I had a meeting with residents out in the Goldfields, and we're working on some plans out there. On the 8th, I went to the economic development meeting. And also, Dawn, you forgot Rachel Downs is the honorary vice commander or something out there. So they're really trying to get local businesses working out there. So if you have a business or know somebody who does, see Rachel. She can get you your foot in the door out at Bill Air Force Base, and they've got millions of work that needs to be done out there.
How many feet do you have? They're in all the doors.
On the June 8th, I went to a Meet the Hills deputies function at the Foothill Lions Club. And they had a community watch kind of thing, and then met the new deputies. Wendell was there. Nick was there. The 6 deputies, some of them came in on their time off in uniform to meet all the residents of District 5, which I thought was really cool. This morning went to the Chamber Rise and Shine at the Brick, where I was the first winner of the raffle, which was kind of cool. And I wanted to give a shout out again to the Unst Festival and the promoters of the Unst Festival. They made a very generous donation of the confiscated booze that they take from people going in there, and relied on me to get that to a good home in Yuba County. And I took it all up to the Brownsville Community Center because they just got their license to sell beer and wine, and they'll be selling all that and making money for the community center. Next week, I'll be at the fair all week. If you're over there, stop by. I'll be living there. Trailer Space 58.
Okay. Sounds good, John. You're everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Perry Edwin Stottlemyre, who passed on 5/23 this year. He's the father of Bruce Stottlemyre, who used to be used to work here. Yeah. All right. Memorial Day, did the service at Sierra Vista, then went up to Foothill Lions for their barbecue up there, and it's quite a difference in show. We had very few kids, but we get up the Foothill in their memorial service. They had all these kids and people, and it was just a well-attended Memorial Day ceremony, which I wish we would get back to. Marysville Joint Unified School District will be in the next two weeks, I think, when our next board meeting is. We're going to try and get them in to do a presentation on the schools in our community, Wheatland, Marysville, everything, to kind of get a stand where we stand in relationship to the California state education process, because California is the 45th in the nation, and we used to be number 1. And there's a misnomer that maybe Yuba County has poor schools in here, but according to the Joint Unified School District, they like to do, and this is the first time they've ever done a presentation since I've been supervisor. So that should be kind of interesting. We'll see how it works. And there's a way that they can, parents can opt out of the sex education up to a specific limit, which I don't think is happening in very many places, and is definitely not advertised very much. And they're not doing any trans experimental ventures with underage children without the parental consent. So other than that, let's see. That's pretty much it. Okay. All right. County Council?
Nothing from our office, Mr. Chair.
It's always quiet.
Yep, just a quick to piggyback off the comment Supervisor Messick made about the Goldfields. We're seeing, and Sheriff Anderson can, I'm sure, attest to this as well. We're definitely seeing a ramp up of activities in the Goldfields that I guess aren't conducive to public. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody shut my mic off. Anyways, there'll be an item we're going to present to the board at the next meeting. Council's working with Public Works and sheriff on it. And it would be a resolution the board could adopt to kind of temporarily close Hamilton Road to traffic so that we could get a handle on how to deal with the activities that are happening out in the coal fields.
Hopefully we'll notify people of the dangers in that area because they're doing things there that we don't allow to have happen in Yuba County, and they've got guns out there and some of the overflow gang activity. So
right, the sheriff,
not something you want to check out.
Yep, exactly. So there's a lot going on out there that we need to be able to address.
Out of curiosity, is there going to be some sort of program or policy that will allow local groups to have access? Pipe Rio, off-road recovery, that sort of thing?
We're going to stop the gangs first and then worry about that because it's getting to be too much of a danger for our citizens.
It's a multi-phase process, but yes, that's something that could definitely be addressed. But that step one will be trying to stop the flow of traffic in there that is allowing people to misuse that area.
It's not safe.
So just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. Okay. And then I've got space 210 next week because my youngest has got a pig at fair. So that means I get to be there to make sure my youngest is taking care of her pig.
Okay.
So
we'll take up a collection here. All right. Anything from you? No? All right. We're going to go to closed session.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.